We're gonna stand and say the pledge, please. With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Raleigh is actually in the hospital, so I'm president of the city council, so I'm gonna be running the meeting. He will be back for the next meeting. He is under the weather, so we're gonna get through this as best we can. Okay, is there any additions to the agenda tonight?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and seconded for the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes.
As usual, if there's any correction that you guys want me to put in, just let me know.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Visitors and delegations, Pat Esterly, Gary Timms, questioning on vacating a street.
Why don't you guys come up here so that I can get you, so we can hear better on the recording? And I'll kind of play a little bit of in between here, what we've talked about. The landowners have requested to learn the process of how to vacate the street, and we're talking about the end of Fifth Avenue, right? The very north end of Fifth Avenue.
That's right in between you two guys.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And there's a 20, is it a 20 or a 40 or what? is it?
60.
60
It's a
foot.
60-foot street.
Yeah, it's just the
It's a-
same. as
well,
Fifth
we're-
Ave.
Yeah, it'd be the same width of the street, Fifth Avenue, right? Curb to curb.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's
Be
flat.
60 feet.
So, well, I'm not sure. It depends on whether it's platted as a street or an alley. And then somebody can look at the plat. And if it's platted as a street, there's usually 10 feet or 12 on the outside of the curb room for a sidewalk.
Yeah. Be the same as going south on my lot there then. There's 10 feet on that one, sidewalk and berm.
That's what it shows, the same with Fifth Avenue
Okay.
coming through.
So
Yeah.
what we had talked about in the office is what is the process? So the process would be, you'd have the petition and all of that, but the cost of the vacation would be for them to split. So this is where I think it gets a little bit muddy. I did a little bit of research on what has been done in the past, and I did reach out to Joni, and her email is in your packet. What has been done in the past is they pay for the legal and the advertising and that whole process, but we don't actually have it replatted. And there's reasons why you would want to plat it, but also in your packet, we have the estimate from Moore on essentially what it would cost to replat it. And that's kind of what we need to talk about, is if we want to go the route of replatting it for ease of transfer later on, or if we do what's been done in the past, where it's not ran through engineering, it's just.
Okay, what I think we need to do is, I think it needs to be referred to zoning and planning. And then they can get a legal opinion from Bruce for council to see what steps need to be taken to verify. So at this time, I'd like to refer that to planning and zoning, and they can.
Yeah, we check in here.
Okay, here's what happened. This is just my and Todd's opinion, and he doesn't know anything, and I know just a little bit more. But I'm not sure about the vacating, but I know we have to have a hearing, and the property owners have the right to, if you wanted to vacate it and Esterly's didn't, it probably wouldn't happen. Now, I don't know about the property owners to the north, but
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. The
Well,
process,
yeah.
I'm sorry. We are understanding that there's a process and we know the steps that would need to be taken, the petition and the hearing and all of that. What we're trying to figure out is if they all sign off and if we do the process appropriately, do we replat it or do we not?
I would
Because-
say that if you two don't want a deed, we probably don't have to replat it because the precedent is set if they abandon a street. And we've done that several times in the
Yeah,
past 25 years. It's split between the property owners. Now, there's one thing one exception to that, and I was at the front of that when we unplatted where the duplex is in my house and stuff. There was an alley in between where Jason's shop is and Bruce's is. But I didn't get the 10 feet out of that one because that was in the city and we were out. So what that means in your case is which builder is that? Paul.
Yeah,
Paul wouldn't get 20 feet in on the end of the street because he's out of the city. But he
Right.
probably has the right to protest that. And I have no idea what his opinion is, but when we have the hearing, I imagine we'll, have you guys talked to him?
I have.
What does he say?
He wants to keep his options open.
He's
So
laid
don't
out
we
with
all?
Everything is.
I know.
I mean, I don't think that there's anybody here on the council that has an opinion because, well, obviously it doesn't, well, it might affect you on your street down there. They did the same thing, but the rest of us just want to do whatever the right procedure is. And
Yeah, right.
so we aren't going to say, yeah, go ahead and we're going to do that tonight, but we'll have to follow some
Right.
process. And I think to Amanda's point, if you wanted to add that in with your lot and you wanted to include that on something that you want to mortgage, it should be replatted. But if, I know several areas where it just says right on the map and we can look at them, like where the old bottle shop is out at Houcouver's, that just says vacated, and that old bottle shop been sitting on that street for 50 years,
Yeah.
but it was just vacated. Down there where Miller's, Ryan and Jeff have that shop, there's a street that goes through there and it just says vacated. So they built across the vacated street, so they must not be too concerned with that.
Yeah.
And that's what, do you mind if I share a potential? If one of them builds something on this and we don't replat it, what kind of problems does that
About the
Bring-
same thing as Jeff and Ryan Miller, none.
run?
I mean, but
That's
that might not be the case if you want to get a mortgage on whatever you build on.
Or taxes, Jerry, you would adjust it for taxes, maybe possibly, I don't know.
Yeah,
if
but the
there's
tax
lots
on, the tax on the vacant lot, the only other caveat is if you have more square feet in your lot, and I'm also the chairman of the special assessment committee, sometimes they add special assessments by the frontage foot and sometimes by the square foot. So your special assessment attack, your property tax, if you don't build on that, isn't going to change very much, just
Right.
No.
a few dollars. But if we do a citywide special assessment, like a big street or sewer project or something where everybody's got to pay. Well, there's some sewer stuff that we're working on with grants. I don't think they're going to have a special assessment for that. But the last time we did that, Jim Army was the auditor and I was the new mayor, and we appointed your brother, Greg Westland, and one other guy. And they screwed around for a year and didn't get it done and did such a bad job that I told Raleigh, I want to do it this time if we ever have to do it because I have experience doing that.
Yeah.
That's your pluses and minuses.
Are you guys planning on building anything on them?
Not at the moment, but who knows?
Well, I was kind of thinking about maybe adding on to my garage. I mean, I don't want to run into problems. I mean,
Where do you think that the street line is on you? How far west of your garage, Gary?
We look down the curb, how far is it from your garage right now? You know, like if you're sighted
From
down,
the garage over to that curb,
yeah,
mm,
you're sighted down the curb.
12, 15 feet, 12 feet.
Well, if you had 10 feet onto that, you'd be about within, you might be even out of zoning compliance, because you're supposed to be 5 feet away. at
Yeah, I think,
most.
Well, yeah.
I think his house is 5 feet. You're supposed to be 5 feet from the eve, actually. but-
Mhm.
From the eve,
Yeah,
So,
so that's, if he had pushed that on, he has no way. Right?
You have to go backwards. So be-
but I think the thing to do is we'll let our legal counsel know what the request is. I think that's fairly straightforward. And we'll have more information. Is there anything else you want to say about that, Amanda?
Just that what they would be, what I think that we've discussed is if they had to engineer it, they're not interested in doing it.
No,
Oh, what was Moore's estimate?
It's gonna be with everything engineering and legal, about 20 grand.
Wow.
I know.
And so that's part of why we have to decide if we want it engineered before they would even remotely start the process. And I agree, I think that cost is probably not in anybody's best interest, except the future down the road, what it would simplify for us, whether it's worth 20 grand or not, I don't know.
No, it's not.
No.
I mean, I think that's.
Yeah.
No, 30 feet for 20 grand.
No.
Oh, and we just said too that we haven't done any engineering.
We haven't in the
vacations
past,
over the years that he's been involved.
right?
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Has this town been platted, engineered? I mean,
Yeah, there's a plat map and it's been updated and there's different subdivisions. Are they in the McDonald Percival or the original one? But you're in one of the oldest plats that was.
so
done
there's
back-
actually, it's been surveyed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I think if you go to the auditor's office or.
It's on our wall. That's the one that I
But
showed
that's
you.
like an 1882 plat, so. Maybe it's, it's way over 100 years old, it's as old as the city.
right. What was it?
What's the right of way the railroad got, 50 or 60 feet?
Well, you talk to somebody that knows that too.
Well, I'm just curious because the curb ends there and that's from there, it's gotta be all railroad, but
The railroad has 140-foot right away from the center line of their main line. So
Line.
that means they're 70 feet out from the middle of the tracks, not the end of the railroad ties.
yeah.
So I don't know where that is back in your corner, but
Well, I just assume, well, then there's that go south, then there's that white fence and everything there is railroad east, but I'll have to measure that.
but the curb, when
Yeah.
they poured that, I'm sure they were told that's the end of the.
Yeah, that's gotta be the end of
That'd be
that.
my guess.
Yeah.
you mean
well,
where the
Doesn't look like
east-west
70
curb on the north side?
Yes,
First Street.
because it stops at a.
It
certain
stops right
spot.
there. Wow.
I think that's,
You could get
you can.
the tape measure out, and measure from the center line of the track.
Track and over to that curve.
And you can go look at the plat map and see if I'm full of BS, Could be,
Yeah, that'll
No.
show it.
It sounds
On the
accurate.
map.
I can't remember, but it sounds really close.
And of course, you can pay Hovendick to measure it for you and pay that if you like.
Yeah,
We can use a tape measure.
yeah, we can. But I'm sure that's gotta be the end of the city property at the end of that curve. Cause if you
But
look,
that
stand there and
doesn't
look down there, you'll see that white fence lines right up with that curve.
The, that's the end of the property but that isn't, the plat probably goes through there. Yeah, I don't know if the railroad there is in the city. The railroad's obviously in the city on the south side of town. So I don't know if we've been any help at all or not, but we'll send, if you and who don't agree with the third party, we'll send Todd down there to mediate that.
Okay.
I'll come and be
Sure.
on your guys'
Look
side.
I'll come with you if you really want me to, so you don't get beat up. Don't fall. I don't know what he wants, you know. Probably whatever, not what everybody else may want on any particular situation.
You'll want the opposite, just to do the opposite.
He wants the city to build a school on his property,
I see.
because you guys need a new school.
Is he gonna fund it?
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So for the minutes, we're referring this to planning and zoning, and you guys will discuss that.
Bruce.
With Bruce.
With
Yeah,
Bruce?
I have several issues with him today.
Okay,
I'm trying to remember that one.
okay. Do we want to say that it's probably not going to happen before the next meeting?
Well, yeah, I hope we're busy out in the field.
Yeah.
Gary's helping.
I mean, I'm-
me.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe in 2 meetings, we can revisit this. There's a holiday in there and
End of June.
end of
Oh,
June.
Well, let me talk to Bruce and see what the procedure is, and we can tentatively put it on the next 2 weeks, but I won't let it get done.
And that procedure is pretty straightforward. I have that in my office. It's just like I said,
We'll probably have we probably should have a hearing prior to, not a half hour ahead of the other one, you know, for a little while ahead of time. So if there's a huge disagreement, we can get it sorted out, because if Paul was here now saying he didn't want it, and you guys were here and wanting that, you know, that should be a sidebar mediation until we come to some kind of agreement before it has to come back up here.
we can't even do a hearing if there's no petition, right?
Huh? I didn't hear you.
We can we do a hearing before the petition? So the landowners would have to petition first, right?
I would say that you guys got to sign your petition.
Yep.
I don't even know if it's a petition. I know it isn't a variance, but I think maybe it's a petition. They call it a petition. You got to request this, officially request that, and then that'll get the wheels rolling.
And
When
to,
does money change hands?
Well, I would say that if you do a petition and it's denied, you don't pay anything.
that's what I would think.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll go through the motions of giving you the petition, you can do that, and there's no use to survey or do anything else or until that petition is approved. And then if that petition's approved and we don't want to survey the thing, again, tell me what you think the costs are, Amanda. I think that-
Brad gave us around,
Not what Brad did, I mean, the rest of the stuff.
well, if you calculate legal, advertising, and what Brad laid out for us, it'd be around 20, give or take 18 to 20,000.
But without the.
Without the-
engineering.
Without the engineering, what's been done in the past is $1,000 to $3,000, depending on legal, depending on advertising costs, what Bruce's costs would be to draw up the paperwork, the filing fees.
I can't imagine it's anywhere near that high, but we'll find out.
The one that we did prior was 1,000, and then there was another one in my file was 1,700. I can tell you who it was.
Okay.
It
I'm gonna
was.
have to trade my soft unit for the. well,
Sell your tractor.
No. I'd be out of business. There.
Oh, and it's worth noting, I forgot to say, it's worth noting, they did kind of start these preliminary conversations about 11 years ago. So there was one that was done. Two alleys and a couple streets. That one was 1,700. And there. This one was. This one was 720.
What ones are those, Amanda, that you're reading?
You know, it's not overly clear what these are. They're based on legal descriptions. So
Well, I suppose if there's more legal descriptions, they're higher price. There'd only be two.
yeah, this one was Cando School. This one was vacating. This one was 2,400 in 07.
Is that, did we vacate the alley between them and where that old Taco house is, that where they have the parking lot? Is that all school property
Yeah.
and not an alley through there? Is that what that is?
Could have been across the road. too.
Yeah,
I mean, there's multiple people that have done it, and there's a wide range of costs depending on.
We could review those.
Yep.
I have it all here if you guys want to look through
Okay.
it, but
that works. You guys okay with that?
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you for coming up and asking. We'll try and figure something out officially. I know that you've talked to me about that in the past, Gary. But I mean, if we officially want to get the ball
Then
rolling.
another thing, I just thought it'd be nice to have it all, you know,
Okay.
Yeah, because that street's never gonna happen probably.
when Charlie was mayor, you know, he was gonna have, you know. And if Paul needs to get in that field, there's a place right off, you're there, and then the
Yeah.
highway, I mean, he,
Right.
Yeah, and Raleigh
He has
actually
other-
told him that he's not supposed to come down Third Avenue with the equipment. He's got a highway access. He's supposed to be coming off the highway, no matter where he's going in that field.
third
Since he-
down.
Well.
Oh, that'd be your,
Well, the one by Chad's garage. Charlie's old apartment is another street goes through there,
Yeah.
just to the east of that. Okay, well, we gotta wait on Gloria with her appointment. She's chewing her fingernails. Pretty mean here. I don't know what.
Okay.
Gloria, you guys can come up. No.
I'm gonna play a little in between here as well. So Gloria and Tabitha and Gary, they have had some water issues in their land. And we have been talking with Scott and the railroad as far as what we can do about the issues. And the water has went down, but I took a couple pictures the other day.
Yeah, behind.
I have a video of it when it was really bad.
Yeah.
Where did it run up? Way to?
It doesn't run anywhere.
That's what I
I
thought.
think if we go south and dig up a lot of those weeds, then maybe that water would have somewhere to go. I don't know if there's a culvert at the end of that though.
There is no culverts
See,
there.
I think that the
Even,
natural flow of that's blocked by the railroad grade there. There's no culvert there. And
Yeah, really, that should have ran north, you know, with a culvert, you know, that. On First Street, there's nothing there, it just stops, you know,
Mhm.
and it can't go south. Cause you're gonna run up to Chuck Wilson's place with water. and that
I think
ditch
that's
is-
going uphill to Chuck's.
Right. it is.
I think that the natural remedy is to run it under the railroad, and you don't dig the railroad tracks up, you hire somebody to bore something through there. I mean, that's the only logical thing, because I think, Scott, you would agree that the east side of the railroad tracks is lower than the lowest
Oh,
one on the west side by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the water's gotta go.
Permission to dig underneath the tracks.
Well, yeah, that's, you're talking, I
That
don't
was
know
a
what.
major deal.
So I did talk to the guy about that.
I don't,
I did talk to the railroad about that.
what'd they say?
He was there running through his people about what to do, but not, he didn't really say much. More or less pump it out of there if we can.
We pump it over. the
hurry up and
tracks.
wait.
Pump it over the road.
Yeah, you can't punch it over the tracks because it's gonna go over where that building is of the elevators.
Well, it's too bad they shouldn't have it there.
Years ago in '97, Broughton's and Gerald and I pumped it over the tracks,
Uh-huh.
but there was no, that building wasn't there. And we even
But
had
that
less
should be
tracks.
far enough away because we're, I mean,
No, yeah.
No,
I
where the
know.
ditch is, that ditch is behind my place, Jeremy, and
okay.
it's about even with that building.
It is.
Best thing is just go north with it, east of me there in the ditch. Cause
You
it
you
runs,
think it'll run in the ditch if we went underneath our street with the culvert?
I think you put like a beehive or something there,
A what?
a beehive, where it drops in a basin and then goes to the culvert. I think
Uh-huh.
that would work.
And it would go under First Street.
Yeah. I mentioned that to the rep too, but
Well, then
He's
it'll
gotta put
boil
it through his people.
What
That's
it's
how
gonna
he put
be,
it through when they
it's
first
probably a
stopped doing it.
solvable thing, but then it's, who pays for it?
it'd be the railroad.
Is that track behind your house that goes to the north of Platted Alley, or does it run out there and is it just private property? That's another look on the plat question.
It's not supposed to be a road,
No.
Amanda
it's-
said. It's railroad
That's
property.
railroad property.
Yeah,
It's
according
railroad.
to the plat, the alley stops south. And there should be no residents accessing that little, what looks to be a road that is railroad property, not for residents to be using as an alley. And Gloria brought up, there's people that drive through here all the time
Yeah,
and
they get
then,
stuck and make a
and then they
mess.
get
and-
stuck because of the mud and the water, and then they go in their yards. And what we need to do is educate them all. That's not an alley, it's not a driveway, it's railroad property. So
I
if
think it
they-
should be blocked off, but railroad don't do it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't ask them to do it.
Oh.
He said he could.
well, you can't do that because
Okay.
but there's
people
park
use
there.
that to get out, if they park in the
I
back of
don't
their
think
house
any-
to get
Oh, I
out.
can-
One house.
You can't walk that off.
Yeah, cause I can get
I
to
don't
my
know.
back from there.
Who's in,
Well, Wilson, and Tabby and Gloria,
Brandon Wilson's.
Brandon
Ed
Wilson.
Knudsen's house.
Yeah.
yeah, but
He gets,
someone, Tabitha and Brandon Wilson are in there?
it's me and then
Tab,
going north, me, Tabitha, and
Yeah.
Brandon.
then Brandon.
So Brandon, he did bring a fifth wheel in the backyard. There's a fifth wheel camper back there, so he is accessing that back there.
Do
Which,
you
I mean,
use the
it's not an
back
alley.
access, Tabitha?
No, it's
You
not.
Come out to the street with
It's
all
a
your-
problem, but
Well, I come out to the street. I don't like to get my cars dirty. Kids, on the other hand, will use it because they're kids, I guess.
They drive through my.
But they
house,
don't
my
have
yard and
to.
everything.
If I tell them not to come that way, they will.
Yeah, not your kids, but people.
Oh,
You
I
they go-
know,
at-
it's-
On Friday night, they go out
You hear
there.
them out there
throwing their
trying
beer
to get
cans out.
going and.
Well, I mean, couldn't you put like just some like T-posts and put a chain across there?
I would love to. I'd love to put
Well-
spikes and flatten their tires.
Yeah.
I don't,
I mean, a little more civilized than that.
Did you, he'll be on the council, in July, probably, Roger Scott, he might support that then.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, the conversation that the railroad and I had, they were very good about trying to find a solution, but they were very clear. A, they didn't put the snow there, which we've all talked about. That shouldn't be a place that people are hauling snow. That's part of the issue is all of that snow melted.
Who pushed that snow out there, Gloria? I imagine.
I mean,
Well, and they clean, the city never cleans that street. Your guys clean that street.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I
You know,
noticed that.
so, I mean, there's kind of multiple things happening that if we all kind of play nice together, I think we can all come up with something that isn't gonna cost one entity.
What, the side streets not getting clean?
Huh?
Your side streets?
The
not-
alley.
Between Broughton's and my house.
I always clean that.
I think it just
How
gets
many
to
years
be
ago?
last,
Back when
yeah.
it was still.
The alley to the apartments there, into theirs, that
Should go
goes right through there.
It's probably been a while.
Last time.
Well, and I can see where that street's one of the last
So
ones
what,
they
but
cleaned,
her
you
street
know,
is
they got the
in
main one.
front of her house, rock.
Yeah, it is, that's where that snow's coming from.
that's where the
Oh,
snow
you
comes
push-
from.
okay. Then you just push it.
Well, not all of it, but snow's a problem and
Well, you know, you push it
This
into
year
your
it
yard,
was.
it still melts and goes
Still
down.
melts.
there.
Yeah, if I
So,
have the guys put it in my yard, it's still gonna end up.
Yeah.
there.
because
And I don't
that's
think
the way
they'd like
go.
to haul it out. Would they haul it out?
You and Mike could pay that, to have that done. That's what
Okay.
it amounts to, Gloria.
Yeah, but the city council would pay it.
Well,
No, the railroad.
Real.
Yeah, they got how
Every
many,
little one.
70 feet, it's all theirs to fix, right?
You know, and that's the part that we, the city, the residents and the railroad, all the way around, I think we could all give a little. But at the end of the day, if a big project is gonna happen, I don't know who's funding that.
They won't.
And they're gonna say, that's railroad property, what are you doing? The city is gonna say, it's not city property, you know, like, it's kind of this messy thing.
So they can keep it out of my yard. They can put something up there.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the long-term solution to that is to drain it to the north and have some kind of a culvert go through the road. And we're doing this other sewer and water street project. That can be another little thing, and maybe the
Save
grant
some.
funds would pay for a portion of that, you know. It isn't all gonna be just where we're gonna do those sewer lines, and it could maybe get fixed and just buried in that
That,
big.
moving that
project.
to the east side, that wouldn't affect your house, would it?
No.
Because, okay, where does your property line end technically?
He's talking about that.
Right there where them evergreens are,
And then the ditch is deeper in between.
deep
there
there,
and the track.
well,
Like, how close is the water right now on, like, behind Brandon? How far north is that water right now? Is it even close to the road?
well, it's
It
way down
was.
now, but it was right
It
up,
was.
it was probably
It was right up in my backyard.
12 feet from that highline
Yeah,
pole.
it wasn't far.
I mean, it was right up into my garden. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lived there for 20-some years.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never seen
Let me see.
water
Have
like
that
that.
hill right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You're
But like I say,
Yeah.
snow's a
And
problem.
of course, we
Really
never
want to
had
see
those
it.
problems until we had a weather like we
Yeah.
did. Normally,
Well, that-
nobody ever
That's
complained.
just recently. It was way higher than this.
It was-
We wouldn't have had that
Like,
15, 18 inches of
When
heavy
was
wet
this the
snow.
First time you've seen water this far up?
On 97.
Yeah,
No,
that's-
it's been-
Oh, yeah.
And we even had muskrats.
I know.
You did
It's been
more
3 times since I've lived there.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you gotta just
Green tiles are.
Well,
take
97.
it with a grain of salt.
She's
Yeah,
got when
yeah.
there's more water.
Okay, this is, I wanna pause it though. Okay, that's my backyard. This is
So,
the driveway.
And can a person somehow make the railroad
This is
maintain,
starting to
mow
tip.
and clean that ditch out? I mean, I try to keep my yard nice looking and then right there,
Yeah.
and I can go out and try to mow it, but I'm not mowing the ditch.
Okay.
They spray it.
There was a lot there. When was
Huh?
that? This
They
year?
spray
Yeah, this
Oh,
was
this
this
was
year,
this year.
and this
Yeah.
wasn't
see, the
even
problem is
at-
they spray that,
Okay.
and then that kills everything, and then the kosher weeds come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weeds come.
That's the only thing that the
No.
spray doesn't last, so no grass. will grow
Last year,
back.
they never sprayed it.
And
No, they never sprayed any of that railroad.
maybe they're on every other year plan or something.
They usually do, but they didn't last year. I don't know. Maybe they ain't got enough money. I don't know.
I think Burlington North.
Well, maybe we should make an Indian crossing up there.
Yeah, here that'll go. You want to put it officially, put that in the minutes there, Gary? We'll have to have a hearing on that and see how that goes.
Well, I agree with what he said. If you could do that, that would really be nice. But will we, as people living there, will have to pay for part of that or?
Well, you might have to pay something for that, but if we could do it with that other project, if you mostly grant money and stuff like that, it wouldn't be a lot.
I mean, I wouldn't mind paying for it.
But
Yeah, if we could run the beehive to where would it go to?
well, the beehive would
Go north.
technically either be in the low spot in that thing, or else we should dig the ditch out to the beehive. And then it'll just free flow out to the north in the ditch and
This
run
is-
away.
No.
My driveway. It comes up halfway through my garage, and I have a big yard back there, so. That was all covered up when it was the worst.
Can I see it?
Yeah, I took a video to try to see it, so.
Again, why don't you just put barricades up or down? Who's
Tom,
did I see?
That man is
I
ours,
screamed so
and it
loud that
actually
day, a
started
big pickup went through there.
tipping
And he come up and looked at me like, what did I do?
Scott, can you do that? Can you put some barricades up, close it for now?
Yeah,
I would love to have that done. I'd like to have it barricaded permanently.
See, but you know, look at that That building to the east.
Gloria, did you see
Yeah.
the sign that I was,
I'm trying to
I knew
find
that
that
was
sign. What
higher.
does
I
it
saw
say?
it just says, in case of an emergency.
Oh, I saw that
Yeah,
sign.
that's the only thing that
Yeah.
tells us
Show
that
that to
it's
Cindy.
railroad, you
And
know.
that's where theirs ends, is right where that sign is. I see a white post with some orange on it, but that has nothing to do with it, does it?
I don't think
I'm not really
Put a
sure.
sign
so.
back
I
there
don't
for
think
residents.
you even know
traffic
what's
zones.
on it, but At least
Danger
25 in the center.
A what?
They, what
See what
Tim
Wow.
thinks it is, the middle of the tracks, 70 feet from there, the middle of the track, so that's quite a ways.
And that's their right away.
We gotta keep.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, we'll look into it. and see
Thank
what-
you.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to old business, RFQ sewer project.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Say, Gloria, we're gonna talk about this sewer project that could be added on to right now. That's the next thing in the agenda.
Thank you
Yeah, well,
very
there you
much.
guys.
That would be great.
I don't know if you can or not, but it's something.
Okay,
All right. What are we supposed to do with the sewer project now?
Well, I just wanted to give an update that all of the engineering firms that are submitting the proposal to us or their qualifications to us, that closes the beginning of June. So we will have,
Will the committee that's reviewing that make a recommendation?
I'm
to us?
assuming that they
Yes.
would, yeah.
Well, then
That's
that's,
our intention, we'll make a recommendation.
are you on that committee too, Sid?
Yes. Ziggy and Rudy and Chad and.
Lonnie.
Lonnie.
So once that deadline closes, then the committee will figure out when to get together and meet and potentially have, you know, interviews and whatever. My point of putting it on there is since starting this project, there's been some needs that have surfaced to the top. And that's something the committee will have to probably review with Scott and Rudy and whatever. The committee might end up kind of having to rearrange what's important. And the concerns just kind of keep building. So like this one. Something to note that the sewer project money, but then we also have COVID money that we have virtually no restriction on. And that's what I put in your packet was the last email that we received. Just is telling the governments, and it's halfway down the page, there's 3 bullets there. So initially it was, we were so restricted to water and sewer. Now they're saying whatever needs your community have. And they highlighted 3 very important ones. Not that we have to do that, but anyway, it's just an email that I put in there that you guys can read. I think also since the beginning of getting this COVID money, our needs have probably changed. We've had a lot of different things come up that weren't there a year ago. So we're probably gonna have to reconvene and talk about those projects again. And probably sooner rather than later. So that's my, that's all I have for that.
All right, okay. Building permit, Powder County Medical Center. Completed value $3.9 million. Is that- I thought this is like a $55 million project.
The reason why I put this in here, and this permit was submitted to us before we decided to go with that other firm. So what we need to do is figure out how much money we're charging the hospital for their building permit, knowing that they will have to pay this other firm. And I want to say that estimate was, I don't know, 20 grand or something like that, 30 grand. Brad's on. If he wants to jump in on here, you can interrupt at any time, Brad. But we have to figure out the fee schedule on the bottom of this permit would be money that directly comes to the city. And so if we go by what this says, you know, that's what I wanted to bring up, is if this fee schedule is appropriate for a project of this size.
Here's the other caveat that you're gonna run into there. You say that's coming to the city, but that goes to the building inspector, the building fee. So when the elevator added all that stuff on, we went round and around with Tom Wyper and said, no, we're not giving you $20,000 or something to
No.
mark out where the bends go. Building inspector Derek, you know, what's he gonna do there?
Nothing.
Nothing. They
Nothing.
got their own building inspectors.
Yeah, they have their own.
Yeah.
They have their own building inspector.
So other than a minimal fee for the location, what are we really entitled to?
Well, I think these permits come off of, going back to when I built my building, I thought it was ridiculous, you know? Anything over 20,000, they go on square footage, you gotta pay, you know? I put up a Quonset, that's cold storage, I gotta pay 10 cents or whatever it is a square foot.
Well, when you add it on to the creameries buildings, yeah. Well,
It's ridiculous for cold storage, you know? So I mean, this, we're not gonna get a whole lot of money for. And I don't know how you can charge them your 10 cents per square foot for a new building.
Wouldn't it be just some kind of a set fee for something like that?
Yeah,
well,
I would think it should be.
I really what Derek has to approve, and he only has the authority to do when their engineers do this, does it meet the setback requirements
Mhm.
or not? Because that's the only thing that he should, really isn't the building inspector.
No.
He's not gonna be involved in it at all.
He shouldn't be involved. in something
He's
like
not,
that.
he's not
Well,
involved.
other than the fact he should review it to make sure that the setbacks are right. That's all he should do.
He's just a zoning inspector.
Yeah, that's right. And if they're all way off the highway,
Does their inspector, is he planning on checking setbacks and stuff, you know?
I have no idea what that all entails. Brad, if you're on, you can interrupt at any time. The third
Okay.
party that we're going to essentially hire, that the hospital would pay for, I mean, that's going, I don't know if that's going to lead into our setbacks and our ordinance rules pertaining to that. And that's why I brought this here, because I don't know that this fee schedule is appropriate.
we can't hear you, or aren't you saying anything?
Yeah, I guess I haven't seen that permit that they've submitted and the fee schedule, so I can't speak to that. I haven't seen that yet.
So this permit is, Brad, this is a permit that the city gives to anybody, and it's, what does it say? $120 plus 10 cents per square foot is what the city would charge for a building permit. But that was my question, if that's even appropriate at this point, when the hospital's already going to pay a different firm to do the actual permit. I'm not saying that we should make exceptions. I just don't think that this language on the bottom of this building permit, I'm questioning if it's even applicable.
We overrode that when the elevator did that, and didn't charge.
I did mine too.
Huh?
We did mine.
You didn't pay that?
The 10 cents, I paid the 120.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should just do 120 on it. And be done with it, because it's a hospital, it's, you know.
I was told these come from Devils. I went down and grabbed one of these and changed it again.
And they have a legitimate building inspector.
Yes.
Yes, they do. I think we just need to go with the, I mean, I guess we can't scheme that, but I mean,
The $120, then, I mean, just on an office standpoint, to me, that would cover some of the work that we have, the legwork and paperwork that we've done. To me, that is kind of a good,
One of the things is that if you have Derek, and that is, he's supposed to do that, review that, he should we pay something if it's. to do
which
that.
which we had agreed at the other meeting that he wasn't going to have a part of this. So he
Yeah.
would get none of this.
They're doing their own. They're
Yeah.
doing their own.
Well, then they have to assure us that they're gonna comply with the zoning setbacks.
Yep,
Mhm.
and
Whatever
I think
they
they,
are.
I think they did say they were going to confirm
They,
everything.
yep,
Well, if they're gonna do all of that, maybe the 120 in the city should keep it. Just tell Derek this, he's not involved in this.
I
mhm.
agree.
Okay,
Does that make sense, Brad?
Yeah, I would say that makes sense. If they're doing all of the inspection, typically you want to cover your costs. But in this case, it'd just be your time, a little bit of time in the office. So that makes sense. Yep.
And that was something that Johnny had, he had been inquiring, well, what is our fee? And
all of our fees, 120.
$120. Mhm.
Yeah, and then we don't have any liability on whether something's right or wrong out there.
Mhm.
That engineering firm would. Okay,
Do we need a motion to that effect since we're going against the fee schedule?
Yeah, let's get a motion for that.
I'll make a motion. for the Building permit fee to be 120.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Okay. All right, election 2022.
Can we go back? I think I forgot to mention something, talking about the sewer project. I apologize. In your packet as well. After the email from the Treasury Department, there's an email from Brad relating to some other funding. And he'll talk about it more at the June meeting. He's gonna go to some continuing education about it, but there is that email in there from him. So I just wanted to call your attention to that.
Yeah, Amanda, are you talking about the drinking water SRF email that I sent you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so what that is it's the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed, recently. So the state is going to be getting some additional funding, and what they're doing is they're kind of revamping. They're creating these three purposes that they're going to put this funding towards, and what we're going to do then is those SRF questionnaires that we bring to you guys, each fall and winter for drinking water and clean water. They're asking that those are redone, and then their questionnaire is just a lot more in depth, more questions, and essentially they want to get things sorted into these three different buckets for this new funding. One of the funding sources is kind of just a general source. Another one is really looking at getting contaminants out of the water, and then the third one is lead service line replacement. And so I think you guys mentioned that you do have some lead services in town, and so that would be a good one to get on the list for, because I don't think you're currently on the list for that. But they have a July 1 deadline to submit these updated questionnaires, so we'll be putting those together for you guys, and we'll bring them to your meetings just for the mayor's signature. But that's what that's about.
Just one of the things that our engineering firm, our city engineer, however you want to state it, they're doing some of these behind the scenes things that we don't always see. And so I'm trying to kind of call those things to attention because that does kind of happen in the background. And Brad and his team have done a lot of those types of things for us. we get added to the lists and whatever. And on our end, they make it easy. We give him the go ahead to add us to the list, and he does all sorts of like figuring and behind the scenes calculating and all sorts of things. So it's just an FYI that we'll be pursuing that, and the mayor would have something to okay or whatever prior to July, right, Brad?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
We have election.
I don't really have an update, just that it is June 14th. I'll have election day training June 2nd. And that's a long day for me. It'll be about 13, 14-hour day for me to help out with the election. And I don't really have anything more to that, except once that day does happen, there's probably some updates, bringing somebody on board, you know, the new people on board, and talking about that newly elected official training and things like that.
Is there any new protocol to overseeing these elections because of the potential, not that we have it locally here, but voter fraud, so that we can maintain the integrity of the election?
I will be learning all about that. Joni and her team hosts the whole thing. I'm just support staff. So I don't have to take responsibility. That's all Joni. But yes, we'll be learning all about that to potentially, you know, combat any fraud. And they're kind of bringing stuff up with the times. There's iPads being used and different things like that. So I'll be learning all about that in a couple weeks.
Well, I think the general public's pretty disgusted that we don't trust the elections, particularly on the federal level.
Mhm.
You don't know what you believe anymore. And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. I would think that any sane person would want to know what the real count is.
Yep. And there has been a couple, I've fielded several calls in my office about are voting machines connected to the internet? Are they safe? Can they be hacked? Do you guys hand count? You know, I've fielded quite a few calls pertaining to that. And of course, my answer is, I don't know yet. Call me June 3rd. When I learn a little bit, you know.
I think that in the city elections, everything is a hand ballot, you know, and you're gonna have to verify that people are residents of the city
Mhm.
who come and vote.
Mhm. Yeah, based on their address and all of that. So,
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. Is there any other old business?
Yeah,
So,
got some.
oh, okay.
On that lift station repair. Out at the lagoon now. The repair will be Tuesday, we're looking at.
What are they gonna do, Scott?
They're gonna replace both
Reels.
rails.
Are they rusted away?
Yeah. Yeah, barely holding.
Are they gonna put stainless steel ones in there?
Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, that's what I never started.
They get the bracket fixed where the mount goes on the pump.
Yeah, they're bringing that up too.
Oh,
Bringing everything to fix down there.
When that
Right now,
wasn't
it's-
keeping up, was one pump just recirculating in the thing, is that, and not pushing it out?
Yeah, it wasn't seated because the knobs are rotted
So it
off.
just,
It
fall over.
pushed away probably every time you kicked on.
so it wasn't pumping any out there.
Very well.
if you go in your packet, quite a ways back, Towner County declared a state of emergency, and so we're gonna piggyback on that. And so we're going to submit, which I have more bills coming, but this is what I had to submit. It's about $21,000 that we will submit for FEMA for that whole ordeal.
One thing that go to pump control last is that we did a back truck out there during repair. That's at the bottom. It's all cleaned up. So I contacted,
Slide out of there, yeah,
what's that?
suck the slide out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they could.
Who can Peterson do that, or?
No, that's
Too deep.
too small.
So I contacted Jetway. Harwood, and I was waiting on the call back this evening here. Whenever. Didn't figure out if they can make it.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to new business, so you don't have to wait, Tyler, what were you here for? What are we? Golf course, okay?
So Tyler and, well, several members of the golf course and I have been kind of chatting. Tyler, maybe me and you not quite so much, but we're talking about this whole city owns this land, but nothing on it. And how that kind of complicates a lot of different things. Same with the park, right? So we own the land that the park is on, but none of the structures, and we don't have anything to do with it. So what I want to talk about is if it's appropriate to pursue conversation of the city just deeding the land over to those entities.
We talked about that at the meeting.
The city was kind of forced into buying that at one time. I mean, the golf
You
course.
mean, you deed the land to the golf course or deed the land to the parks, to the park board, is that what?
Like the golf course specifically right now, but yeah, because without owning the land, they can't get any grants or anything like that.
Right, that's where we're struggling to get in, even USGA or PGA
Nothing.
grant, like they won't do it for us, so, and then we looked into some of that, just to get some stuff updated, you know. And that was kind of the thing, is well, how are you a golf course, but you own the land, you know, kind of deal.
I think it might be in the city's best interest to shed the liability of owning that.
Yeah,
And we talked about
yeah,
that.
I think the other thing is the same, the rake we always thought was the park boards. It's not, it's the cities.
What about the swimming pool? Park board,
That's the park boards, I think.
do they own the swimming pool and the park down there, the park board?
They
Or does
own,
the
they don't
city-
own the property of the park.
Well, then what's the hell?
It's the whole thing's about the same everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the
It's
a
city
mess.
owns the
Who were having
property.
issues
but
with
not
insurance.
Yeah, I understand that, but Tyler, speaking to the point, if you would, when I say you, I mean, if the golf course owns the land, you're not gonna be covered on your insurance under the insurance reserve fund, but you can get private
We
insurance.
can't, yeah, and that's kind of where we're.
And I don't know if it's
Stuck in the
gonna be
middle.
more expensive or less
Well,
expensive.
that was kind of the thing, and we were talking to, I don't know, maybe you guys do, how the land taxes work on the golf course? Are you paying the?
Right
county?
now, we're exempt because we're exempt.
Right.
You
and
guys-
So we would have to go and petition the county to keep us exempt. Because
Yeah,
that would drown us.
Cause at one time, the golf course, I believe, was private. Private
Club.
course.
Right.
And then the city, or to go municipal, the city had to take on the land.
Right,
Yeah,
for
and that,
for insurance purposes, because they were
Yeah.
drowning.
yeah, and I mean, that's all that all came.
That flips over, Tyler's on the fire department, you were, how do we treat the fire department? Is that just an entity of the city or?
It's pretty much so, and of course, back in the day, the firemen did all the work.
Yeah, well,
I mean, the firemen did all the carpentry, all the painting and shingling, that's just the way it was back then, And that now this somebody else is gonna do it, and you gotta get some
Yeah,
cash flow.
the
going.
insurance is gonna be a lot.
The
higher
city's
if it's
gonna
private.
get stuff.
Right.
I don't think that we're talking about the fire department.
No,
I
no.
just brought that up for.
A reference, yeah, but,
And I think, Amanda, you were gonna come to our next golf board meeting, kind of, and they'll have more questions, I'm sure, than I can think of off the top of my head, but.
And I may not have the answers,
Right.
but at least I can document it and bring it back
do you
here.
Do you know how many acres the golf course is, or approximate?
I don't know
Is it
either.
anywhere near
Get it on Google Map and it'll tell you within.
Yeah,
Then are you looking at the driving range too then?
It would be all of it, because I would assume so, because everything on the north side of that road is county owned. Or is county, I don't believe anything is city, You know,
But the city can own property outside the
Yes.
city, like the city as a separate entity, but they own the airport, and they own the lagoon. And
The city campground is actually, but does that go up to a certain, are there trees or
only the
something?
golf, it'd be the golf courses campground.
Yeah.
Well, and we'd have
Yeah.
to, I mean, that's part of what we need to talk about, because if we deed it over, it wouldn't have to be all or nothing. I mean, there's legal descriptions.
I would ballpark that the golf course is 70 acres, just by looking at Google Maps. You know, just.
Where the water plant of the city shop isn't in the city.
No,
I don't know, that's strange to me too.
Well, it's, and totally off topic, this, you know, how we're running into water problems out on 9 and 1, golf course. And talking to people that are smarter than me, we think that it started to happen when we quit pulling from that aquifer out there, when the city quit pulling. I think that's having something to do with that water table out there rising.
oh, sure, it could be.
Because
I
the
mean-
city isn't pumping
He's
water.
Right.
using it.
But
yeah.
that was a major runoff though. That was-
Right, yeah, no, that is the low
Yeah.
part of.
But I'm sure it has a little bit to do with it. you
But I
know.
think the late season stuff. that's
Because
what we're
that,
having
you know, that-
problem.
Like on 1 and 9, you know, that's a long way
Yeah,
down
absolutely.
compared to where
There's a
that
hole.
pump is, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only reason I was here, just to kind of get where you guys were sitting on that.
You guys, right now, you're insuring the buildings, right?
Yes,
Separately,
we
right?
insure the buildings, yeah.
Yep, and I know that because that's a separate entity that we insured. But with the land, though, the land might be, it's just, you're gonna have land liability, which is cheap, but you know, for the golf course, the liability might go up and
Right.
stuff, but.
I think that if the golf course would like to, us to deed that property over, we should seriously consider that.
And we all talked, said that would be a good idea.
If somebody gets beamed with a ball out there now, is the insurance, do they cover that, like the golf?
So over my head.
I think it's individual.
Individual,
Individual
it could
insurance,
be
because it's a-
individual.
Because it's
I
a.
think that's a
public
year.
course.
You holler for it, and
Risk
it's
up
your
there.
fault.
4 doesn't really, yeah, for what?
With it being city owned though, do we have
You guys-
a risk of that?
The land, the property is managed by them, so.
You guys want that grandstand gone? I got a guy that's itching to tear it down.
Yes,
We're gonna
we
talk
want it.
about that too. We're gonna definitely, yeah, this all ties
Just go
together.
talk to Reed. He'll do it for free.
He's gonna haul it all out too.
No, he still tear it down. He'll tear it down. That's for sure. He wants to tear it, that horse farm's out there too. He wants to go tear it.
Whose are those?
That's the golf course.
That's the golf courses. Okay. And
But
so
don't
how,
they want to put carts out there, or don't they anymore?
No,
No, the there's two.
the other, the old
There's
horse
a
barn.
car barn and a horse barn. The big.
Wait, now you
Yeah,
don't-
it's a horse barn.
it's
they
this
don't
one.
want to
It's
use
in your
it?
packet.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
They don't use that anymore?
No, we get $50 a year. There's an old, whose car is
Is
that?
that Bill Siler's?
Yes, it's Bill Siler's car is out there. He pays us $50 a year to keep it stored out there.
An antique,
That's at Metro?
Datsun, it's a Datsun.
it's an old antique convertible Datsun.
Yeah, well, I think he pays
It's
50 or
worth
$75 a year.
If
Why
it's
don't we
a
just
somebody.
have-
But otherwise, it's a pile of this junk and liability. This is what it is. for
Right.
us out there. I would guess in the next 2 years we'll be done.
Yeah.
Just 'cause-
Maybe it'd catch on fire,
Yeah, weird.
lightning.
Yeah, lightning.
We're not gonna say that to the insurance guy, guys. Come on.
Anymore.
Lightning strikes from the ground up, right?
I used to feed horses in there.
Huh?
I used to feed horses in there for Glen Army.
Rick Wyrock come to me one time and I like your storm and said, I think it was the mayor, maybe I was the president also. He said, I saw lightning hit your old elevator. And I said, you did, huh? And I said, with any fire? No, but he was gonna keep an eye on it. And I said, well, if you see any fire, get out of the police car and walk up to the fire department and pull the alarm.
No, but yeah, we've been talking about that too. I don't know if you guys maybe want to check on insurance before we officially do it, maybe.
Well, absolutely.
Just,
will.
Because.
Who's president of the golf?
Aaron,
Huh?
Aaron, Earl.
Aaron is, okay.
I do that in your taxes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
check on that, so we don't do it,
Right,
and all of a sudden you
absolutely.
guys are gonna be drowning again.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's
So,
kind
I
of,
think the consensus of the city is we want to do whatever is right for the
The
golf
units,
club, you know, to
That's
make
great
it
to hear.
work.
Yeah, we're willing to do that, so.
Yep. All right,
Okay,
Okay,
and then I'll just come and kind of just be that
absolutely.
mediocre, I think 23rd, does that sound right?
23rd, yep, 7 o'clock.
Okay,
Did you know the old cart barn out there? You know who put all that metal on there?
The one on the west,
Where the carts are parked?
yeah,
The fire department.
did they?
Papa Check was chief then. He was a slave driver. Jesus.
No, we.
Giving you guys labor, huh?
in from the lumberyard.
Yeah, he made money on it, and we got to do all the work.
Well, at least
are we thinking that we would handle the park similar, or?
Who's on the park board?
Well, it's Randy Thompson is the president. He's on his way out though. We're not really sure.
Tony's on there, Lee
Yeah.
Johnson and Jennifer.
Jennifer Wanzak?
No,
Is Tony on there?
Eisler.
Eisler.
Patola, he's not on there. Is he on
The park board or on the hockey board? He's on.
No,
He's
the
on
hockey
both.
It's on both.
there? Oh, is he?
Oh, yes.
I think, yep.
Okay.
I
Oh,
was
and Daniel Grandy's on there too.
expecting a little bit of representation from them here, but I mean, we can again go to the next park board meeting as well and see. But first, we have to decide if the city is interested in that.
yes, we definitely are, because we've discussed this, because it doesn't benefit us at all. If it's gonna help the park board out, if it's gonna help the golf course, you know. it
But
makes
you know,
sense.
the one thing about the park board, it was created by ordinance by the city council, and I don't even know if they're an official entity.
They voted on it.
Huh?
It's voted on. To dissolve one, you have to vote them out. Or vote to dissolve that part.
Vote by ordinance, you
Yeah.
revoke that. Well,
Not by us, it has to be citywide vote.
but I wonder if they have a ESN number and are a registered entity. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know.
I'm
Maybe
assuming
can
they
move forward.
are.
Well, I know the two softball fields.
Yeah.
Are both under their name. That was deeded to them,
To the park board.
Mhm.
to the park board. One by Jordy's and the other one by Ray Roberts. I think.
Well, that was just all Ray Roberts' land.
You know, there was Jim Jordy, but Jordy said something too.
They did, huh?
Yeah, there's two of them on it. I went looking for that.
Okay. I don't care. I think,
You're on the hockey board, right?
I'm not.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Well, maybe we should have them looking at the same thing and see if it's gonna be cost effective for them to take the ownership of the building and the land, if they can afford to do it. Get it out
if they
of
want
our,
to do it, yeah.
out of our hands, park board, the hockey board,
And so to be clear, we're talking about the city park and the hockey arena.
No, and evidently the softball fields, they already own.
They already own
Yeah.
those.
I think the park board would have to be interested in the hockey arena, the hockey board, and the park board.
the park board, yeah.
The
we-
reason that was in the hockey boosters name is the city of Cando got a grant for $90,000 to finish the locker rooms. And they had to turn around and sell it to the city of Cando. There's a quick claim deed. I found some information in my mom's stuff, she get a strap up on it, where they sold it for a quick claim, and that didn't solve it. They had to come back and do a warranty deed in order to get that $90,000 grant to finish the locker rooms, or build the locker rooms.
That means that the city officially owns it now, but we can probably give it away again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And here you are, you've got, the hockey boosters have got equipment in there, they've got the Zamboni in there, the boards are basically the hockey boosters. And the park board puts a man in there and takes care of it.
Mhm.
And mows everything.
Didn't the hockey boosters raise the money to put those coolers and those pipes in there?
Now, that was money grant, yeah, that was
I think
between the
I-
hockey booster, the park board and the city.
I think they hooked me for about 10 grand on that. deal.
I think they
Thank
need
you
to,
very
they
much.
need to
You got
discuss
me.
it.
As a mayor to do all that work.
They need to discuss it between themselves, how they want to handle it, I think, and then decide from there. Have the
So-
park board and the hockey board. get
What I
together.
would like to do is put together a letter from the city of Cando saying that we would be interested in beating this over, and if they could discuss it and get back to
We need
us.
to explain, this is for insurance purposes. I mean,
Yes,
basically, we're insuring a building with their stuff in it.
yes.
And we can't do that legally.
And I would say I've had enough conversations with multiple people. I think that they are probably understanding why we would be interested in doing that. Just to have it in writings to give to their board so that we can, if you guys are okay with me putting something on letterhead.
At least get the conversation started.
They're the only option what they would have, the park board or the hockey boosters could have a contents policy on the building that they don't own. It's like it'd be like a renter's policy. They could get a policy like that for their contents and contents only. So the building burns down, they don't get nothing for that, but they would get everything that the hockey boosters own. Hockey
Whatever
boosters,
they got insured.
yeah, they could insure that separate. So,
Different entity, but same topic, and it's a different circumstance, but we also own the Audi Theater. To me, it's similar, but a little bit different. They're not
but
really,
They're the board.
there's the
Arts
arts,
Board,
the
Arts
Arts Council.
Has they have a contents policy, they insure the movie theater, the popcorn machine, the seats, everything, I think, or not seats, but anything that's detachable, they have insured. on a separate policy.
Non-fixtures.
Yes,
Okay.
non-fixed, they have their own policy for.
And that's something too, I'm not saying that they have the cash flow. I don't know what their money looks like, but is that something the city is interested in at this point, or should we just stick with the land that we've talked about?
I think for right now, let's just stick with what we
Okay.
have. We don't want to have too many irons. in the fire.
That's right.
So, okay. All right, building property committee appointments and scheduled meetings.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold you to the fire. I said I wanted a building committee. I need a building committee. We have,
Thanks, Tyler.
thanks, Tyler. We have lots of things that, in my personal opinion, need to get cleaned up. It can't just be Amanda's opinion. It needs to be council. And so I need a committee, and I want to meet in the next 10 days because there are some significant needs that need to be taken care of very soon. And we're going on 20 years of nothing happening. And I need a committee so that it isn't just Amanda said, Amanda wants.
I think I'll make a motion that we have, when Raleigh gets back, he appoints a committee. And we should make a motion that he's the chairman of that committee and get out of this deal.
Here we got a motion, is there a second?
Who is this?
Raleigh.
Raleigh? Oh, you
Future
come,
permission.
yeah, you don't come to me. you're-
That's right. You've voluntold.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Oh, mayor should be on that,
Yeah.
I'm not taking that, Raleigh, but I mean,
I would need probably at least one more.
well, you need maybe somebody from the community that is or isn't.
I wouldn't be
on.
good. I would say throw it all away.
That's
So I
kind
would
of where I'm
just
at.
get myself in trouble.
What?
Throw it all away.
The pavilion and the little shed and it needs, we already decided that.
Mhm.
Just how we're gonna do it.
So maybe I can get with Raleigh next week. I mean, there's significant things besides just what I've included here. Things having to do with the building that I'm residing in, things that very directly affect me on a daily basis. And it needs to be talked about.
Amanda, I'd be willing to sit on that committee beyond my tenure as a city council person, just
Okay.
because I have experience in all that
Absolutely.
stuff. And Raleigh probably needs some help. But, you
They're leaving.
know, obviously, at the end of June, I'm gonna be off.
Mhm. And if I can get a group of people together, no offense to anybody here, but I need commitments to actually meet and follow through.
Sig, is that something you'd like?
He told me absolutely not.
I was gonna say either that or Mr. Todd. Because, what's that?
Yeah, he could or could not be reelected, huh? Will you do it, Sig?
Yeah.
Oh, he's my yes man. So, and the reason why I'm pretty,
There's no collusion or conflict of interest with you, your cousin, and his.
Oh, yeah, not at all. I see that. Not at all.
the reason why I'm pushing this so much is because there are some very direct needs for the city hall building that need to be talked about, and also lack of rent or rent needs to be discussed, cleanliness of the building, general maintenance, etc. Besides all of these pictures that I have put in your guys' packet, all of this mess is more than what Bruce and Scott can handle.
Matches.
It's in this storm shelter, whatever this,
Not a storm shelter.
whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but
Where, you go back in the.
it's in the campground.
The new.
This thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Back in that corner. it's gonna crack it.
Also,
If you look,
when they
you got-
redid the bathrooms,
you
they.
got the two holes right there.
Somebody threw a mattress in there.
Well, there's been people
Back out.
squatting,
Probably
yeah.
mobile, yeah.
There's things like the trim around our building, the window, that looks terrible. I mean, there's just a lot of different things that our public works guys absolutely, we don't have enough manpower to do all this. And it's probably gonna take some money.
City Hall shelving.
No, wait,
Wait,
Finance committee.
We're good, we've appointed Raleigh to chair that, and you've been saying that Sig and I volunteered.
okay, got that.
Siggy and Jimmy volunteered. Okay.
And then finance committee, I don't remember who's on it, but I need a meeting in the next 10 days.
The same ones.
Same ones.
I'm not on that. Just,
For the budget,
Yep.
the same ones that were on last year.
was I on that last?
I
Yes,
think you were. I think it
were.
was Jimmy, Sig, and Raleigh.
You didn't want to say that.
You didn't ask for that one second.
Ask your cousin, she says I'm not good with figures.
Basically, what I absolutely need in the next 10 days is some direction before I can even remotely begin.
Okay, well, this is
calculate.
the direction you should get. I want to see the budget, the way that it was and what the actuals were from last year. And then just, if we just propose something similar to that, those are the three things we have to look at. If,
I'm not even there. What I need is more direction before we even,
well, you're not listening, I want to see what the budget was last year, and I want to see what we spent.
yep,
We should get those two things.
yep,
And then, okay, now we got to start, then we can't, we can't make, yeah, we gotta see those two things, Amanda. At the first meeting, and then we'll
Sure.
talk about what the additional needs are or aren't.
Gotta have some numbers.
Oh, yeah, you gotta have what we budgeted and then what we really.
well, we have
spent.
all that. You guys have all that in your packet. You were.
Well, then you have to point it
You
out.
know,
to
we
me.
can definitely
Yeah.
get to all of that. But more of what I'm looking for in the introductory meeting is more, are we looking at long-term planning? Are we sustaining where we are? Are we moving to the future? Are we planning improvements? Are we planning more
How can you do
Oh,
manpower?
that when we have no money? You know,
Well,
you're
that's-
basically scraping by now, so how do you
Yes.
plan for the future?
And that's what we need to talk about before I can remotely calculate anything. Because I can tell you what we did last year it's not gonna work. We have a lot of issues that we're gonna have to fund that we haven't dealt with in the last 20, 30, 40 years. And so we might end up chopping things, but I need to know what you guys think are important to look in the future first. And I can provide, where our dollars are. But, I mean, there's things like, are we interested in potentially, I'm making up this, would there be a potential for property improvements, such as demolition, such as you know, we kind of have to think about what our plan is. Are we just gonna sustain? Because that's what we've been doing, and I don't know.
You're maxed out on mill levy, you only get so much in, I mean, it's basically you do the best you can.
And then we need to seriously talk about, can we entertain the thought of upping some fees? Because we keep kind of going around that. And so I can't really play with any numbers until we decide, are we going to up any fees, or are we going to try and keep it the same? Because that's what I did with this year's numbers. We kept it the same. So we didn't make any more
The other
money.
thing that we need to look at that is relatively important. What is the historical amount of cash reserves we had on
Right.
hand, and how much of that have we
Right.
depleted that, if any? We need to know that, because any additional spending besides what you get in income and fees is gonna deplete that reserve. And I don't know what the answer is as far as whether you want to spend all the money and be broke. I remember when I was the mayor and Jimmy Army retired, and we got Joni came on there, and she says, I need to talk to you about something. And she said, well, this is the money that we had, You're at the rate we're going,
Mhm.
we're gonna spend all the reserves. Do you want that to be your legacy? You're the guy that frittered away all of the city reserves. And I said, well, no. And so we raised some fees, and I think the only other salvation that we might have is the value of the mill. The value of the mills probably will go up if we do this assessment on the
I
houses.
think we're gonna have to.
And then everybody that owns that property is gonna pay more tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I don't know what
If it hasn't been done in 10 years,
Uh-huh, and I think that
we're due.
the houses probably are worth more than they were 10 years ago. But I mean, you know,
I agree.
but so the things we need to look at is that
Bottom line.
reserve trend, you know, whatever
Mhm.
that is. And then what we budgeted last year and what we really did. And
We stayed, I can tell you just unofficially, we stayed relatively close within the budget last year. But there was no projects, there was no improvement, there was no repairs, there was
We did
nothing.
stuff, but we had funds that come in for that. You did $400,000 in street repair.
Well, yes, but we used prairie dog money
That's what I
that
said.
isn't there. So that doesn't really, I mean, we don't get to use that again.
the other thing, and I've probably got as much history as anybody here, in the last 25 or 30 years, what is it? Our populations went from over 1,500 to barely 1,000. You know, we lost a third of our people.
Mhm.
And we've done a better job of maintaining it than a lot of cities
That's
this size, but I mean, there's just less people and more needs, you know, it's not a fun situation to be in.
It's not, and that's,
When Karen was mayor, we had too much money, and we couldn't even get a loan for the water plant, for the rural water, remember, and Langdon had to take it over,
Yeah,
because we had too much money in our account.
I don't know how that could have even been. I don't,
Yeah,
I don't
was-
see it.
I mean,
Yeah, I-
mayor, you know, Karen was pretty cautious, very cautious, and that's, the city had a
I
ton of
don't want
money.
to, yeah, I don't want us to get in a situation like Rollins. Rollins taxed everything.
do they have any reserves?
I don't know, but I mean, they just, you go up for house taxes, they're just out of this world.
Where's this at?
Rollins.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Devil's Lake, that's one reason I sold my house down there, because the taxes on it was about $4,000.
I was working up there all the day, pouring cats and dogs.
Really?
Anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to kind of talk about with the finance committee before I started calculating,
Okay.
is what's the plan? So I know how to, Because I'm not gonna spend a bunch of time calculating a bunch of stuff if that's not the direction you guys want to go.
Well, we'll schedule a meeting here.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Did you ever do that rate study?
So we did start a rate study with rural water. We have not gotten back with them to figure out what we've determined. That rate study, there's a ratio and lots of different formulas that go into determining if your water is rated at the right level. And there's state laws that govern how much we can charge for water and sewer services. So we have to be within certain criteria based on population, based on median household income, all of that kind of thing. I don't know where we're at with that because Rural Water Systems Association was assisting me with that, and it's just coordinating us to get at this together as an unofficial rate study. So we do have that.
Okay, we gotta move on. City Hall, safe shelf building.
So yeah, I'm gonna explain this just a little bit, and this is more like to get us talking about the building. This is part of why I want a building committee. City Hall, the museum holds the newspaper archives from the late 1800s on. There's bound books of newspaper archives held up there. They're not ours, they're not the museums, they're the newspapers. We're just kind of housing them. And they're just up there, not protected in any way. They're not in the safe, anything. And so I pursued Pat Esterly to just give me a cost estimate of what it would look like to put shelves in the fire safe to protect those archived books.
So why are we protecting?
It is in the benefit of the city to protect the history of our town. And so we can talk about who should be paying for it and who is responsible for it, but ultimately City Hall is the record keeper of the town. So if all of those newspapers went up in flames, we would be at more of a loss than the newspaper, because our city history, that is our city history, and that's what City Hall is supposed to be doing.
You think that those shells, that's a legitimate bid there, Rudy?
Are these the binders upstairs?
Yeah.
They're huge, right?
This bid is taking into account the measurement of those particular books to maximize the storage space of those books are, I don't know, like this long or whatever they are, this thick. And so I'm not saying that this is what I'm asking for right now. This is just something that I took on. If we are going to invest into our building in any sense of the way, which is why I want a building committee, we need to determine that. This would be one of the things that I would recommend doing, because we do not have our history is not protected in any way.
Is there any shells in there now, or do you got?
In the safe, there are no, the entire safes would have to be.
You're talking about the one on the west side of the.
Yes, and that poses a whole nother issue. The museum has their stuff in there. And we.
That's what I was just gonna ask. What are you gonna do with that stuff?
Well, it's our building.
Museum should just do whatever, you get it out of there.
We need to determine if
What's in
we're
there from the museum?
junk. It's just because there's no storage closets. There's nothing. So it's just, there's a ladder in there, there's paper, there's just junk. We could figure
Okay,
out.
that stuff that they want to say, put it upstairs where the newspapers are now.
That's what my strategy would be to figure out how to swap them. And on the same token, have a conversation with them and us, the building committee. What is the agreement with the museum? There isn't one.
What is their agreement with the library?
What is the agreement with the library? There isn't one. So City Hall has no place to have a meeting. We don't have a place to store our stuff. and we don't get any rent. It doesn't make sense to me. We can't even have engineers in our own building to meet with us about the sewer project because we don't have a table.
I never did figure out why we gave up that table.
Yeah.
I don't know why that decision was made.
I wasn't, that was just after I got done, then Wilson ended up at the table. I mean, this is okay to meet, but it's not ideal either, you know.
It's part of our larger conversation of what is the needs of our building. We own all these properties and we have, our needs aren't getting met. So this was just kind of a feeder, and I'm not asking for any action on it now. It's one thing among many that I want to talk about, the long-term planning of that building. Another one that hasn't been worked up is that front entrance. And we've talked about that a little bit. You get a snowbank inside, you spend a lot of money on heating because it goes right outside.
So how much would it cost really to give that to the museum, to the library, and just start over in a new spot, let's say, building, just for meeting in the auditor's office?
If we charged rent, we probably could buy something, but we haven't charged rent, so we don't have any money.
Does the museum make any money?
No.
Library don't make any money either, and we're paying the librarian, so we're never
Well,
gonna get rent out of it.
Okay, but that's not entirely fair because we're levying money to pay the librarian.
You have a room upstairs, maybe, in the dungeon.
And the other part of that is insurance has strongly encouraged us, we need to change a little bit of the use of that building. And if we do any improvements, we're gonna have to make it handicapped accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah,
just
but
kind of
that's it.
snowballs into a large complication.
I thought we were handicap accessible in the back door.
Well, we are, but it's locked unless the library is open, and it provides a significant security issue. If we have the back door open and the library isn't open and I'm in my office, I can't. The way,
Yeah.
So now you're talking security system.
But
So
on
now-
a meeting, it just gets opened, you know. You know, if we had something back there.
I mean,
You know, I always wondered, and I don't know what that is, why we have a public library and a school library, why aren't they? the same
eventually
together?
they would like to merge, but that's not a possibility at this point. But that is the long-term plan of the library. Because then they could maximize technology and all sorts of different resources together. But that's a ways in the future.
We can have our meeting room back and the control of the bathrooms.
So
I think that's the way you guys should. head.
kind of a feeder into that whole building committee.
Let's move on. Okay, wait. Okay, cemetery beautification, what you got there?
Okay, I don't have anything in writing. The cemetery board had approached me. Lane Peterson would like to do a small beautification project towards the entrance of the cemetery. Basically, he would buy the materials, the city would reimburse the materials, and he would do the labor either for free or linked in with his
What does he want to do?
some pavers and rock and just make it kind of a nice little area. His ballpark estimate of what he'd like to spend would be about $1,000 for some decorative rock and some pavers and whatever near the entrance
How much
inside.
money does the cemetery fund have? Any excess?
There is no excess. We take out of the general fund every year to offset it. We take a good chunk.
It's on the west side.
Yes.
You don't know
He's-
what he's planning on doing?
Maybe like a semicircle and offset with some decorative edging or something, and then some rocks, and I don't fully know what he's thinking. But he said he
One
would,
other source of funding that I would think that would, we could do that is, you'd have to work with Troy Singer, but maybe there's some memorials that, you know, people that are Mary and Mama and Daddy would.
So there is money that we do, the cemetery does get. It goes into a trust fund. And there are memorials, but I mean, again, we offset from the general fund probably $6,000 a year.
We'll have them maybe get a rough idea and bring it to council.
His rough idea was around $1,000.
But what he wants to do,
What he wants to do?
Yeah.
Okay,
and have him come and visit us.
okay.
I think that.
Yeah.
Maybe at the next meeting or,
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay. We did the finance already. Housekeeping, Dave Cassie's cleaning service.
Okay, where's that at now?
the only bid I got after placing an ad in the newspaper. I can't do it anymore, so.
Because her and Kathy don't have time to dust and vacuum and clean the bathrooms.
Yeah, I was on it, the meeting. Let me see your goddamn blue thing here.
I didn't number the pages, there was too many.
See, I should be organized like you, cleaning bird, then it would be. That's
$30 an hour. She figured about 2 hours every.
2 hours, you know, either an hour-ish a week or an hour and a half to 2 hours every 2 weeks.
I'll make a motion that we accept Cassie's bid.
Is there a second?
And you'll have to monitor the hours there, not. Bid like that.
Motion and second that we hire Cassie Axman for cleaning the city hall office. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. All right, Public Works, Scott, what you got?
We fixed Rick Reed's and Chuck Wilson sewer pipe down there, got the roots out.
Oh, did you have to dig
Come
it
up here
up?
a little closer, you speak so softly, I can't hear you. I'm gonna have
Speak
to-
softly and hear your big stick.
Get up here and present what you want.
Was there a very big roots in there?
Yeah.
Fine.
Chuck's, there's some big root balls in there.
Oh, okay.
Really, all they did was cut a hole in it and shove the pipe.
Yeah.
No saddle, nothing.
Yeah.
Then on Rick Reed's, the saddle didn't have any gaskets or nothing, so it wasn't pushed tight. So
Right.
It just slid right in there. I reached out to Rural Water about hammering the rest of the line now, see what it is. Make sure it's fixed
Well,
properly,
Rural Water do a sewer line camera, where, you mean the?
just a push camera,
Uh-huh,
just a push camera,
yeah,
yeah, not a fancy camera at all.
okay.
Skip turn or nothing. We started street sweeping.
Well, back up to this other thing now before the street sweeping. What about, is there the private property guys got to pay some and the city has to pay some, or what do you think?
I went up and asked Amanda about that today because I didn't understand how that would go due to. The ordinance says if it's in our sewer, it's ours, but due to the installment of it is what caused it. So I didn't really know how that went.
But, and it was, well, Rick didn't build that house, he moved into that house, whoever built that house did a graphic woman job.
That was that Gaspari's crew that
Same
built the house.
houses on the south of town.
Yeah.
Who built Chuck's house?
Yeah,
Wilson, did he build that one?
Dan Hawley.
no, Dan Holly did.
Dan lived there.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
okay. I know Chuck did the garage, but not.
Dan built the one up on 8th, and then he sold that to
What is the?
Jim
bill?
Slush, or John
What did
Slusher
the bill
bought
come
that.
Oh,
We
we
don't
didn't
know.
bill yet.
Then he built the next one down.
Yeah, we
there.
don't know yet.
I mean, I know Rick's suffered many times because of it, but I mean, I know wasn't his house to begin with, but.
My thought was,
We look at Rick's though.
With
it's
the tree
coming
there.
right through his boot, so. Or it's
Scott, was this an old tree or was the tree
roots.
just roots?
Yeah.
Okay.
you know, if his saddle was pushed against the pipe, it's not gonna go into PVC.
Is there some clamps that go around those?
There is clamps that go around it.
But they weren't there.
No,
So you guys,
And then that, just sticking it in there without any clamp, with just a hole is improper too. I think in the property owners aren't going to like that, but that's their problem to get that hooked onto the sewer main properly.
yeah,
Now, if there was step part of it, there was roots in our main line, we should have absorbed that cost as the city.
was there in our main line?
Did you by chance take any pictures?
no,
Oh, boy.
well, we might have some of its rural water, actually.
No, I meant of the pipe just sticking inside, one of Chuck's.
Oh, no,
Well, did you have them down there when the sewer thing was open and said, well, look how hooped up that is, or? did-
Chuck was down there, yeah,
He was.
yeah, Chuck saw what his was,
And the other guy is Rick Reed.
yeah.
Yeah, he
He ain't gonna-
every time.
You ain't gonna get nothing out of these guys.
I kind of thought, because we opened an insurance claim. Because that's what you do, and we have to figure out whose fault, whatever. So I have to talk to insurance about it, and then my thought was, I mean, if everyone gave a little, so it's not fully ours, it's not fully Rick's. I mean, if everyone kind of compromised
See
a
what
little,
insurance pays, if they pay.
if they
anything-
pay
If they
anything.
pay anything,
Well,
then aside
what,
from there.
what would their reasoning be to pay anything, because it was just bad workmanship, it wasn't some emergency that
Well,
did that.
we didn't know that was dug up.
Uh-huh.
I suppose,
But I mean, I can't imagine that it
It
would be nice if they pay something, but I don't know why they would.
It wasn't affecting Chuck at this point. Maybe in the future it was affecting Rick and that was it.
yeah. That's true.
How much is the bill?
We don't know
We
yet.
haven't got it yet.
Any
Well,
idea?
If it's $2,000-3,000, it's.
I can just wait till we get the bill and just see if we can absorb it.
You know, we already paid Rick to have, what's his name? Glenn come, so we paid him whatever, $750, whatever it was. And that whole process, just FYI, don't do that again. Whoever okayed that, we should have done our due diligence. We should have either done an insurance claim or figured out what the issue was before we paid him, because what it looks like is, well, yeah, it was our fault. We paid you for this. Well, this is still now our fault, you know? I
I'm
mean,
lost. Glenn who?
Glenn Johnson. went-
what, the plumber, the
Huh?
plumber.
Glenn went rotor.
Oh.
So the council approved that payment of $750 in March.
Well, when I owned the restaurant, it would regularly plug up. I paid him to root it out.
Mhm. And that was the
And listened to about
conversation.
What everything everybody else did that was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that was the conversation in March was, well, it's our, you know, it's the roots in the line.
Since we already paid for his, when it wasn't our responsibility, I feel that we split it up, amongst Rick and Chuck. Well, but then again, I don't know if Chuck is really, they fixed it because.
But
He was eventually
Chuck-
gonna have-
Chuck does have an obligation if that pipe is sticking, even though Dan Holly did it, just sticking in the thing. Chuck, you have to pay to hook that up to the main property, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't know how he can argue about that. Wish he didn't have to pay that, but you put a decent saddle on, did they put a saddle on it
yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Well, that part of it, I think Chuck should do, you've gotta have it hooked into the line.
They were
properly.
digging up because of Rick, but Chuck got fixed in the.
Well, we dug up because of Chuck's root balls. We're eventually gonna be a problem, but we've been jetting and blowing them out. So,
Okay.
I mean.
But he doesn't have the proper saddle on there, so he should pay a little bit of the excavating, pay for that saddle.
No.
Yeah, because each time that
Now, Rick-
pipe goes
and
up,
now
so just going
Rick
out
has
that,
got a proper saddle on there too
Yeah.
now.
they both do.
So you won't have any problems now.
Shouldn't. I'm not gonna promise that.
Okay.
Okay,
Was there a big root ball on Rick's saddle that was bothering?
His was just a rip went through where the saddle was.
Right in the crack.
Yeah. It's kind of in between.
Don't take much.
Is that what was hanging him up then, you
Yeah.
think? Not Chuck's?
No, Chuck's was fine.
Okay, okay.
But nevertheless, Chuck still wasn't hooked to the main properly.
That's correct.
No, Holly just stuck that in there. I'm sure there was no gasket or whether.
No, it's just.
They
the
just
pipe
cut out
went
kind of a
into-
square hole and shoved it in.
Yeah.
Didn't
Not
have-
even
didn't have
around, no.
cemented or anything.
Yeah.
You know, if he'd have cemented it, that'd have been probably good fun.
That's a damn Holly special.
And so we'll wait and see what that bill comes in. Anything else, Scott?
No, just started street sweeping, start road patching soon here, hopefully tomorrow. On that water down where those ladies were talking about, should I just let that dry up now and barricade it then?
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Could we, I mean, I'm sure the radar won't mind if we put, do we have street close signs? Those barricades that we use for parade, do we have extra ones that we can?
Sawhorse is just.
Yeah, those things, yeah.
Yeah.
Put one at each end of that.
I want to grab, I got a transit, and I want to go down and run that and see if that hole is deeper than the north side of that first street.
Yeah, that,
Because I mean, if it's lower, there's no use.
No sense of doing it.
I mean, if the hole's lower on the south side, that is.
That's what I want to find out.
Unless you fill.
Yeah, because it almost
But if you
seems
build a
like
hole
it
in,
is.
it'll still just back up into the
Cracks
yard.
in the yards, keeps the road dry though.
You think Quack will go for that?
Yeah, it's too bad the person couldn't turn and go right where it goes out there into the.
But
coulee.
on that video Tabitha had, the water was high to the north of that building that they were worried about, you know,
Right.
where it's kind of high right where they pull that propane tank, big propane bullet out of there, feral gases.
Yeah,
So you could bore under the railroad too.
If you could get permission.
Yeah, which, that's a good point, Sig. It isn't just an automatic deal.
Oh, that was, I bet you wouldn't get it done in a year.
yeah,
What
'cause
cost?
that's pretty low over there where this trailer and stuff.
Yeah, I think it could easily go underneath the railroad tracks and then to the coulee.
You think we can do it without?
You can. I don't want nothing to do with that.
Well, Scott Gable just
Nope.
had
Nope.
it done.
Very good.
I see the fines they throw them, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Let's
Okay,
carry
then,
on.
well, next thing is like these, I don't know if you got part-time position.
What if you're gonna hire that, which one is it? Michael Gibbons?
That's what the committee decided that we do now, we just need.
That's a recommendation too.
Yeah, he's got a CDL and everything too, so.
Well, I'm the king of second chances, but he's used both of them up with me.
Well, you
He's the
can't
most
stand
qualified.
working for Todd anymore.
But I can't imagine that.
So,
No, I mean, if you guys wanna try him, if we authorize that, I guess we didn't try.
He worked for you at one time?
Big guys.
Oh, okay.
And he was doing most of the work, we didn't pay the least. And I said, well, geez, it seemed like there was about 50 of you guys in the same boat. One doing the work and not getting paid. No, I mean, he's okay, I mean,
We just.
From
It doesn't
our-
hurt to
from
try
our-
somebody.
You're gonna run a they probation for them.
Yeah.
We're gonna do
probation.
that, we need probation. With
you
him.
think that he'll take direction,
He's gonna have.
Scott?
Yeah, he's gonna have to, you know.
And then my next question is, are you gonna give it to him?
Yeah,
Because that's gonna fall on you, you know, if he doesn't know what to do, it's because you didn't direct him right.
yeah, well, I mean, what he
Big
starts.
stick.
Starts out.
We know he's gonna have to
Yeah, just-
shadow Scott and Bruce to get to do a little bit of it, I mean.
'Cause he's gonna
See,
be-
what's the matter with that street sweeper? I went by there with Bruce and there wasn't just a huge cloud of dust, where I could see it. Did he actually put his water down now, or is it because everything kind of damp?
I don't
I mean,
know.
it wasn't dusty.
Well, it's supposed to be
No,
straight
it's-
water.
he's using water like he's supposed to.
Well, that's,
And I think sometimes it runs out of water and he keeps going, you know, and I don't know. I've seen it where you can't see him,
yeah,
you know, going in people's windows and.
Is there any lights or anything tell you when you're out of water other
Yep.
than the dust comes up? There is a light in there?
And he needs to make sure that he knows that he needs to fill that as soon as that thing comes on.
Yeah,
Because I
he was up
remember
at the water
seeing
plant filling all day.
Yeah.
Stuff by. He was
No,
always
it-
there.
If he's using the water, it keeps,
It does a nice job. You
Yeah.
see
it
that
keeps
light.
the dust down if you got the water going with it.
Do we need to do anything else with that?
I probably need a motion to hire.
I make motion to hire Mr. Given
A motion, is
on
there a second?
on the probation.
90-day probation.
Yeah.
Because we figured that they would get him through the summer, so we knew if it wasn't going out. If it wouldn't work, we'd have time to get somebody before the snowfall. So,
okay.
so we got a motion, yep, second, okay. I got a motion, a second to hire Michael Gibbons as our part-time guy, and is there, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Michael will be hired and he can start whenever we call. So do you want to make the call tomorrow, Amanda, and get the ball rolling?
Some employee paperwork and
Did you guys say that he had a CBLB?
Well, he's got a CDL.
You drive truck for God's sakes.
Huh?
You drive semi for
Oh, well,
God's
then it's gotta be an A.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, class A, he didn't say that.
one thing we
He does some
didn't-
work for Rex too up there, I think.
we didn't clarify, we need to know the wage,
16.
16.
Email application. What's
More bills have come rolling in, but we had to get our paperwork into FEMA.
Oh, for that sewer.
This was for the sewer emergency a couple weeks ago. I would say there's probably a good $2,000 more that weren't calculated in here, and then mounting, because we have the vac truck and all of that, that would be related to the repairs. But the deadline had to be in, so the dollars that we're submitting to FEMA is $20,576.
Did it, town or county get declared? Is that-
Yes, it did. So I worked with the emergency manager, Lori Beck, and submitted this, and FEMA's supposed to be here mid-June, I think they said. And then we determine if they give us money or not. I don't know. It would be nice to recoup these costs. Otherwise, that's, unbudgeted money. So the documentation there is that just that weekend, we paid out quite a bit of overtime. You can see what that amounted to be. And then the rail system that we're working on, and then the service calls there. And just so that you guys are kind of on the up and up, Raleigh did okay this 10,700, the rails. That had to be a decision in the moment.
That's one. All right.
And then I included some pictures. Scott and Bruce took some pictures. I don't really know what we're looking at, but some pictures there that went to FEMA as well.
Supervisor training.
We need to know who's going with Scott. I need to register.
I'm willing to go, but I get sequestered for duty on the night.
Shit.
I don't know what that's about yet, so.
That day, of course it's that day.
No, it's the ninth.
It's the 9th. Okay.
So if they've got court.
Depending on how long. Okay, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is register you both, because the price goes up the end of May. So I'm gonna register Sig and Scott for supervisor training. And it's just a 3-hour thing on election day. It's kind of stinky timing of that.
Yeah, morning or afternoon.
It's morning, 9 to noon at Lake Region State College.
You could vote here before you go, and then you could vote again when you come back.
No, we can't be doing that. I will be making sure that doesn't happen. But anyway, so that will be happening. The cost is $75 each.
Okay, the city's taking care of that.
Yes. And if you guys ride in the city truck, there'd be no cost for gas. Really.
I think those tires are-
Okay, you
Or
can
we
get
can
two-
do-
Can you get two people in there?
Yeah, we could do
Yeah.
mileage.
Better
Yeah.
Might have to clean it up.
We could
Bring
do
a towel
mileage
and
as
put it
well. If you want to drive your own vehicle, we could do mileage. But it would make sense to me if you guys rode together, but that's up to you guys. Whatever you want to do.
Okay. Free dump days, Scott. What's we got?
Beginning of June there.
First
Hopefully
Get it,
you
June.
ride out enough that you can do it.
And not raining on that way.
Yeah,
June 3rd and 4th.
yeah.
Ooh, we're gonna work out on the weekend.
Is it really? Well, that,
Can't keep pushing it off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
there's people, you see their
Yeah.
stuff all piled up in people's
Yeah,
trailers and they're waiting for that free dump.
yeah, I get stopped about 3 times a day.
Yeah. I haven't advertised these new dates because we advertised it twice and the weather, whatever. You want to keep it the times, or because of other events, do you want to change the times before I publish it, or just leave it the same?
So,
Okay.
By the way, do we own any part of that road or responsible for any part of that road to the dump ground?
yeah, I think it was said that we could maintenance some.
That road is horrible. I was out there the other night on a side by side. I almost tipped over. I was hitting the rut so bad.
So-
Well, the ruts are horrible.
What
Either that or I
side?
gotta drive in the ditch. What's that?
What side of the road?
We was on the east side of the dump ground.
It's because they close that down for minimum maintenance.
Yeah, I'm only allowed to do
Yeah,
one
that's
half.
minimum, they, nobody goes down that unless,
I can only clean one half and I picked the highway to the dump.
Oh, okay.
and I think Bruce, has he gone out there and bladed it a couple times, or
Not yet.
not lately, but I mean, last year.
Yeah, last year.
Last year.
It'd be something to get over mine. man.
Scott, are you, when your idea of, like, Fifth Avenue's got a bunch of holes in it, can Bruce put some patch in there?
Yeah, and we're
Yeah,
gonna
that's gonna
start
get
patching
started.
now.
Okay.
We'll get that new guy.
We get the new
going.
guy started on.
How about the golf course road?
Golf course,
That's
so-
it. Needs to be,
Yeah, well, with the moisture, you don't wanna be blatant mud, you know.
well, it's dry. It's
Yeah.
very dry.
Yeah, well, we've
The
been
washboard is horrible.
pretty hectic lately. We haven't been able to, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been busy.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I noticed how bad it was. I mean.
That's one of the things I want. I think we need to start taking care of these alleys too.
Yeah.
Get some gravel on them. We've got the gravel, we've got the recycle. We need.
The,
Okay, right, bids tender for removal of shedding pavilion.
Kathy wrote up a couple of different ads. You guys rip these apart for me and give me the go ahead, and I will advertise it in this next paper and on our website.
well, like that one shed, you think somebody would just take that out of there for not, just get rid of it?
Well, they
People
should
are
pay
asking
us
for
for it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
People want to bid on. it.
people want to bid on it.
Oh, they want to pay to take it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you get a 12 by 20 shed for a couple of $100 and you put a couple of hundred into it, you'd have a damn nice shed. That shed, if you were to buy that would be about 12 grand.
Were you the one that
Like
brought up?
$1,500.
Yeah, or we could get rid of those 2 crusty sheds at the water plant that have holes all over them. And move that to the water plant and we could use it.
That would make more
Well,
sense.
if you really want to use it, you should just drag it over there.
Yeah.
How do you move it?
It's got skids on it, doesn't it?
Wood skids, yeah.
Well, move it on a muddy day. I didn't like
Next
the
time I
going.
need an
Them
idea,
guys
I'm
leave
gonna
the
call
golf
you.
course alone.
Tom Ross used to have,
Yeah.
Tom Ross that manages movies, he used to haul all the sheds for all the lumber yards in town.
But
He has a trailer that,
that one that Jesse put beside her garage there by the duplex, he couldn't haul that one, and that was, it was too big, you know, but I can't remember what that one was. I think it's 10 by 16.
oh, okay, yeah, I think the
This
length
doesn't
might be
need
too
it.
long, yeah.
Huh?
An axle and stuff, I mean, you gotta get out, and lift it up. They're whole. You run the payload backward and lift the other end up.
Use the forks on the Bobcat and the loader and haul it.
That's, I don't think the Bobcat wouldn't lift it.
No.
So is that what we're gonna do is retain it and paint it
It needs, I think it's gonna need shingles.
and
Or tin,
shingles,
yeah. Actually, tin would be just be done with it.
tin?
So maybe do it on the pavilion, see if anybody.
Okay, that's the other thing on the, flip that page over. We wrote up a couple of different options for the pavilion. You guys tell me which direction you want to go.
It's a monster. And it's small. 5,400 square feet. I mean, it's a very good size, but yeah.
When you see some of those pictures, she's got some of the pictures in there, you can see the inside. I couldn't get inside. It's got some pretty nice looking wood.
The other part of that is since it's city owned, yeah, you know, we should probably go through it before we just.
How do you need any hardwood for your house?
What is it?
taking on that.
It's 60 by 90, huh?
That's a monster.
It's gotta have at least 10-foot sidewalls.
Oh, yeah, at least, yeah.
Colored pictures she took of it.
I did reach out to the American Legion because they seem to be the charity case around town. And they are not interested in taking down the building or retaining the building in any way, but they would be interested in a couple of the things inside the building. So they noticed there's a pop machine in there that they would want,
If you can move it. it'd
things
be
like that.
nice to be able to move it,
I have no
but
idea,
you have
it's
to have
it's
one of
ours.
those house movers.
It's in our building. I don't know. It's been sitting there for how many years? I don't know who purchased it or whose it is or. I mean, does the city want the cooler? I mean, do we want to give it to the Legion or do we sell it to them or? What do you guys think of the ad? There's two different options. Which one do you want me to print? Or do you have any critiques on it?
Full bottom.
I had thought,
Well, this one, you're demolishing it. Somebody might want to take it for the wood and actually pay the city to tear it down. You know,
I mean, that's-
It's either or.
yeah, that's kind of the option. We pay you or you pay us, you know?
You know, if you don't put it out like this way, if nobody takes it, then you go to this.
Yeah, do that.
Do the first one.
Okay, Zach.
Yeah.
Top first. Do you guys think the timeline is okay? I mean, we kind of just like made that up.
It's gonna take a while to take it down.
It is, that's why I thought November 1.
Let's read Westland gets the ball.
Yeah, but we don't want all this in our dump. Some- you
All
know,
you gotta do is, in order for that to go to the dump, those shingles have to be taken off. That has to go to a separate file.
That's an asphalt shingles on there, isn't it?
Yep. They're crumbling, so they're gonna come off. the little hits.
We pick them up every year.
So, you know, that'll slow somebody down from. demolition.
Do that then.
Okay, I'll run it in this next paper and I'll put it on our website and Facebook.
You
And
never know, somebody might just, if they would take and the moving costs, move that out of there and think that they had something, you know.
Make a hell of a shot, but holy shit, how do you move something that?
When you take that off of those cement piers, I got a feeling that things are gonna
Just
crumble buckling a little bit.
Okay, transient merchant license.
I think I was 15 when we shingled that.
Brad and Debbie Bergdahl painted it last time.
Yeah, we shingled all the buildings out there in the fairgrounds. There was quite a few.
Yeah.
Houses, everything.
So we just have to acknowledge it's license.
We talked about potentially waiving the fee. What do you guys think about that?
for what, for
The
the,
school.
The school, the merchant transient license for the donuts.
I don't have a real problem with doing that because this is just a fundraiser. and It isn't some carpet salesman selling Persian rugs or anything. I don't know how you guys feel.
You need a motion?
I do.
I'll make a motion and waive the fee.
I'll second.
All those in favor of waiving the motion, or waiving the fee for the transient license, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Okay, I have one more thing that when I was talking to the mayor this afternoon, I don't know if he talked to you about that, but he has concerns with the Corday and
Yes.
his filing his insurance and stuff, so we have to have a deadline to have.
So
that.
what he told me, which I had asked him to send me
This is
documentation of
Jason
what,
you're talking about?
yep, of what the plan would be. He said he didn't want to purchase it until closer to the event because it covers a certain amount of time.
But
We can set everything all up.
So I told him, I said, well, I at least need to see something, what the coverage would be.
Yeah, we
When
need
you-
to have,
when you
probably need to
purchase
have verification that that he will be accepted for insurance.
Yes.
Because they can, it's a binder, it's a binary. They can
he
get
doesn't
insurance
really
binder
have
for
to
those
pay
dates.
until it's.
Right.
He
Right.
pays for the date.
So
but we-
he was kind of a little bit, I mean, he said he would get it to me. I talked to him the end of last week, so give him, till the end
You
of this
know,
week.
My thoughts on that whole deal is that they're trying to do too much and be too big too soon. And I don't think that there's gonna be thousands of people there. I would be surprised if there's 500.
His online sales aren't great right now, but I mean, we still got a little
What are the
ways.
tickets that Gordy's pestering about to buy for? Is that for that?
There's the raffle tickets and then there's tickets for the dance and stuff. See, and they did sell enough tickets so that they could drop the price of the tickets for the bands.
Mhm.
The bands are 45 grand for the 3 bands.
Okay, well, that's. Maybe there's gonna be more people than I think.
And they're
That's
$75 a piece.
They were 75, he dropped them down to 35.
35,000.
$35 a ticket. They were $75 a ticket. But he sold enough to where he could drop the price down.
Now it's only
to
600.
35.
Huh?
That's only 600 tickets. At 75, they pay $45,000.
But they made enough to where they could lower it to 35, so
So they must have 1,000 tickets, so,
they might.
okay,
Because the raffle's $75 a ticket.
Yes.
but that isn't for the band, the raffle, that's a different deal.
That's
That's for
different.
the motorcycles,
Mhm.
they got 2 motorcycles, cash.
Two cash prizes.
You got a ticket already?
I did. Well, that's community spirit.
That got that for the motorcycles and everything? How much is that?
35.
Oh, that covers everything.
Just for the motorcycles.
Oh, just for,
And the cash prizes.
okay,
So you bought a raffle, you bought a raffle, ticket, not the dance.
right, that's what I was wondering.
Do you want to give them a deadline like till next meeting? What do we got there?
When does he think that's the middle of July, isn't that what?
Last 2 months from yesterday.
16.
You got the bike on
2 months from yesterday.
And I think that's what Raleigh wants, is a, give him a deadline, if he can't come up with it, then.
Tell me he needs to have an insurance binder by June
there? You don't
16th.
see it?
Well, we wouldn't have
That
something.
gives them a month.
Right?
If they would get a binder, that'd be 1 month.
You guys are gonna
Do a
ride
binder.
together on the motorcycle?
They're going to.
Well, we'll have a meeting here. binder here, so we can at least decide what to do from there.
Yep. That'll give us a month before this. Okay.
We don't want to let it be left hanging.
All right, financial. Anything major? Because we're over the 2 hour mark, we need to.
I don't see anything alarming in here. Just something to note. One of feedback that I had heard is how come these reports are so far behind? Because we don't even get the bank statements to reconcile until a while. So there's always, it's always going to be at least the second meeting of the next month. So that we
Well,
can,
they should know that for the bank account. You don't.
you know, so that we can reconcile and make sure if there's any, anything. And then, like I mentioned before, we will continue to put those reconciliations and the bank statements in on the recommendation of the auditors. Not that you guys have to look at it, but then I've covered my butt that I've provided it to you.
Now, that's a lot of paper.
It is a lot of paper.
Tell me again, Amanda, why it takes 2 weeks to get the bank. Isn't that bank statement, can't you just print what that is on a given day, the next day?
Yes, yes, but no. So basically, that gives us one whole meeting, because usually the meeting is the very beginning of the month, right? So that gives us one whole meeting after to do any fixes, to make sure everything's in, to give you a full. Otherwise, what happens is, let's say the first meeting of the month is July 1. That gives me no time to prep it.
Does it make any sense to meet instead of the first and third, the second, and fourth?
For the city council meeting?
Yeah,
I mean, that's up to you guys to decide. That's according to city ordinance. That is,
yeah, but I mean, we could evidently we change it from Monday to Tuesday and we change it. Are
yeah.
we changing the time now? I guess that's the other thing.
We're gonna discuss that when everybody comes back. So, or after the next group join.
You mean change the time, meeting time?
I'm gonna wait till the new members are on.
Okay, I didn't make any difference to me. Right?
Yeah, figured it'd be easier than trying to do it now with.
But that's why it's the second meeting is it gives us, the office staff, enough time. Regardless when the meeting falls, we should always have it done by the second meeting.
Bills.
A couple things to note on these bills for approval. There's one for Raleigh. He had purchased one of those pumps or whatever, and so that was a reimbursement for him. And Sally Hunt, that was a shade tree committee. Couple of the larger ones, DCP, that's what those are those repair. Yep, those are those repair bills that you guys saw. And I do have the bills here to look through as well.
Need a motion to pay bills? So moved. Second, okay. All those signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, okay.
The other thing I need is Jeremy to sign checks.
Mine too. Let's get it at 6 o'clock.
I'll get up at 5.
Do I have a board? Do I have a board?
5:30.
Do you want to see the vouchers that go with those?
Whatever you want.
Everyone. Yeah, that doesn't count. Yeah, actually it does.
Yeah, you win.